Okay, looks like we're streaming now. I got a note that this is streaming, so we're going to start the April 21st, 2002 Board of Adjustments for the City of Fort Mitchell meeting. We'll start with a roll call.
Mr. Hayes,
Here.
Mr. Stegman,
Here.
Miss Myman,
Here.
Mr. Deitmering, Miss Lucarelli,
Here.
Okay, it looks like I do confirm that we do have a quorum. Actually, I missed item 2. Item 2 is since this is our first meeting of the year, we need to elect a new chair and a vice chair and a secretary. So that being the case, is there any nominations from the board?
oh,
George,
you need to
his mic.
unmute your mic. Oh, it looks like you're still muted.
I take nomination of this year. Simon. This be the author of 2020.
So I'm having a lot of difficulty understanding yours. I don't know what's going on with the audio, but you want to try that again?
I could apply nominations, name yourself or be the new chair. I can nominate and issue 20.
Okay, I think I got pieces of that, and if you'll acknowledge, I'm going to try and read that back if my audio is clear. George nominated myself to be the chair, so Don Stegman for the chair. He nominated Lisa Myman as the vice chair, and I believe Angela Lucarelli as the secretary. So if you could chime in if that's correct.
Correct.
All right, are there any other nominations or? Does anybody have an issue accepting those nominations? I guess we'll go ahead and have a vote on there if unless you will not accept that nomination.
Yeah, roll on or what?
Yeah, I guess without any objections, Cassie, can you have a roll call that those would be on that slate?
yes, Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Mr. Stegman,
Yes.
Miss Myman,
Yes.
Mr. Deitmering,
Yes.
Miss Lucarelli,
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that's takes us, we have our new officers for this year. We also have a confirmation of a quorum with the number of members here. The next item would be the approval of the minutes for the December 2019 meeting. So I'm assuming you all got a copy of that in your packets. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? It's broken, but I think you made a motion to approve the minutes.
I know he had a change he wanted to make prior to approving them.
Okay, do you have that change, Cassie? Can you read that
Yes,
out to the others?
it is under election of the new chair. He wanted to add, Mr. Bossert made an announcement he would be resigning from the Board of Adjustment because he is moving out of the city. Therefore, a new chair must be elected. Mr. Deitmering made a motion to table the vote for a new chair until the first meeting of the new year, when officers are normally elected. Mr. Stegman seconded the motion. Chairman Bossert called for a voice vote. The motion carried with all ayes.
Okay, with that amended meeting minutes, do we have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as amended.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, looks like the meeting minutes pass. That completes item 4. We're getting ready to move into the case. And I have a conflict of interest in this case, so I'm going to recuse myself from it. And I will actually leave the meeting at this point and turn duties over to the Vice Chair, Lisa Myman. So I will be signing off.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
At this point, we are moving into public hearing for Kevin Crumpleman of Crumpleman Builders on behalf of Ron Zierhusen, seeking a variance from the rear yard setback in an R1F zone in the zoning ordinance. The applicant proposes to place a new single-family home 20 feet from the rear property line in common with 38 Orphanage Road, where 40 feet is required. Claire, do you have something to say on this?
Yes, I just have a statement to explain what this is about for anyone listening or anyone new to the Board of Adjustments who may be watching at home. So the Board of Adjustments makes zoning determinations as required by state law. The members of the board are appointed by the mayor with the approval of council. The board hears 3 types of cases: applications for conditional use permits, applications for variances, and appeals from the decision of an administrative official as to the enforcement of zoning regulations. Tonight, the board will be considering the variance type of case. For variances, the board has the power to hear and decide applications for variances. A variance is a change in a dimensional requirement from what is stated in the zoning ordinance. For example, allowing a structure to be closer to a property line than what is stated in the zoning ordinance is a variance. A variance must be dimensional. The board cannot grant a variance to allow a use of property that is prohibited by the zoning ordinance. Regardless of the type of procedure at issue, all hearings on each application before the Board of Adjustments are open public meetings under Kentucky law. All testimony must be under oath. After all testimony has been heard and evidence has been submitted, the board will close the public hearing and deliberate. But deliberations will be conducted in open session, but no further public input will be permitted. Decisions of the board may be appealed to the Kenton Circuit Court. That's it.
Thank you, Claire. So that is the case we have before us. We're only hearing about the variance. We are not hearing about the zoning, which has already been approved. At this point, there are several people that have joined us that would like to participate in this case. And those of you that have joined us, if you would like to speak, you have to be sworn in as a witness. Anyone who is speaking before the board has to be sworn in as a witness if they're not part of the case presentation from the PDS as well as from the board itself. So those of you that are wanting to speak, if you would unmute your mic, and I think, Claire, can you swear them in?
Usually the chair would swear them in, Lisa.
Okay, and I'm gonna just go with what I have before me. Those of you that wish to speak, I need you to solemnly swear that you plan to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. So help your maker.
I do.
I do.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And I assume you've given Casey all of your information so that she can note that on the minutes. Patrick, can you confirm that there has been notification to all of the surrounding residents as well as any interested parties?
Yes, notification was given per KRS 100 requirements.
Okay, thank you so much. Have there been anybody, has anyone else determined that they have any conflicts with this case other than Don, who has already left the meeting? George, Joe, Angela? No? No, okay. I have no conflict either. I don't know any of the parties. Have any of the board members made a site visit, a drive-by site visit? George, Angela, Joe?
I have.
I'm familiar with the property.
I drove past it, but driving past it, you can't really see anything, so there's that. Okay. All right, Patrick, are you guys ready for the staff report?
Yes.
So at this point, we'll have the staff report from the Planning Development Services staff, and then the applicant can make their presentation. Thank you, Patrick. And if everyone else can mute their mic at this point.
Okay, so thank you very much. And for the record, my name is Patrick Denbo with PDS staff. Also joining the meeting is Andy Videkovich with PDS, who is also available to assist with any questions. I would like to submit the staff report and the submitted materials that were electronically sent for the record. And as the chair stated, this is a rear variance, this is a setback variance from the rear yard to request to vary from the required 40 feet to 20 feet. The site in question is a newly created flag lot with access onto Raycourt Lane. This access is a private drive that has been named Charles Creek Lane. A majority of the site in question is currently zoned R1F. The south corner of the site is also zoned R1D. These are single-family residential zoning districts. The proposed single-family home will be constructed within the portion of the lot that is zoned R1F. The R1F zone currently permits single-family dwellings. The existing land use shows the subject property as in most of the immediate surrounding areas as open space. The greater surrounding area consists of single family with some multifamily lots also nearby. This is the proposed site plan. The subject property is Lot 2, the property on the right side of the plan. The proposed home that is the subject of this request is shaded orange. The green shaded area is the sanitary sewer easement that runs through each of lots 2 and 3. These do greatly restrict the buildable areas of both of the lots. The proposed house on the left is a different property owner and already going through the permitting process. The blue dotted line is indicating the required 40-foot setback. The red dotted line is indicating the requested variance of a 20-foot setback. In this plan, you can see that the front of the subject home and the home on the adjacent lot 3 would be relatively in line with each other. This is a site plan showing the proposed single-family home if it were meeting the setback requirements. You can see that the front view shed would be obstructed and the homes would be slightly closer together under this plan. Due to the easements and setback requirements, there really isn't any other practical building site within this property. The reason for the variance request is due to the proximity of the two homes when placed within the setback requirements. The subject home on Lot 2 would be partially obstructing the view shed of the home on Lot 3. This is a bird's eye view looking west into the property to give you a slightly different perspective from the aerial map. The red area is the approximate representation of Lot 2, which is the subject property. The red star indicates the approximate location of the home within the lot. Please note that the property and the building site are situated in a wooded area to the rear of other lots, not immediately adjacent to any other dwelling. The Fort Mitchell zoning ordinance requires 40 feet of rear yard setback in an R1F zone. KRS 100 gives the Board of Adjustment the authority to approve variances. The board must find that the variance would not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not adversely affect the essential character, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements. The board shall consider, are there special circumstances? Staff finds that the existing sanitary sewer easements do create special circumstances which do not generally apply to other properties in the area. The position of these easements within the lots create limitations on the placement of the homes within the two lots. Would the strict application deprive the applicant of reasonable use? Staff finds that the strict application of the provisions would not deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of land. There is room on the lot to place the home as designed within the setback requirements. Would the variance create an unnecessary hardship? Due to the fact that the homes would have to be placed closer together, effectively blocking part of the view shed from the home on Lot 3, there would be an unnecessary hardship created that could otherwise be avoided by means of a variance. And is the variance the result of actions taken by the applicant? The board shall deny any request for a variance arising from willful violations of this ordinance by the applicant. Staff finds that this application is not the result of actions taken by the applicant. The applicant identified the need for the variances during the normal permitting process. Staff is providing a favorable recommendation on the variance request. This addition will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the character of the area, will not cause a nuisance to the public, and will not constitute an unreasonable circumvention of the regulations. The subject property is located to the rear of several other properties and will be mostly surrounded by wooded areas and not adjacent to other dwellings. As stated, there are special circumstances which will cause an unnecessary hardship on the applicant. And with that, I will take any questions from the board.
If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and speak. Angela, George, or Joe. Sounds like maybe we don't have any questions from the board as of yet, but we reserve the right to actually ask you some more questions later if necessary, Patrick. At this point, I'd like to ask the applicant, Mr. Crumpleman, if you would like to go ahead and make your presentation to the board, and you are familiar with how to share your screen?
I really don't have anything.
If you need to.
Yeah, I really don't have anything to share on the screen.
Okay.
I think Patrick pretty well went over the gist of the request. There's just a couple of other things that he didn't mention that I think are also a little bit contribute to our request, is putting the house where he mentioned that houses the house on lot 2 would be able to sit on there without the variance is true, but it puts the houses closer together, and the difference in elevation between lots 2 and lot 3, we would also have to be aware of not undermining the house already being under permitting for lot 2 as we construct or on lot 3 as we construct the house on lot 2. The other thing this does add also, by pushing it back, it will allow some additional off-street parking that would not be there if we held it at the 40-foot too, which is a benefit, I think, to the people that live on Record. So, but other than that, I think I'm just here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, does the board have any questions for Mr. Crumpleman? Angela, George, Joe?
I don't.
I don't either. That's great. Thank you, Mr. Crumpleman. At this point, we'd like to hear from our visitors that are proponents of the project. That means you're in favor of the project. If you would like to speak, you would unmute your mic and say your name. Would anybody like to speak in favor of the project? No? Mr. Kaiser, I assume you're going to want to speak at some point. So if we have no proponents of the project, we'll now move on to asking for comments from people who are opposed to the project. If you would unmute your mic and say your name, please.
My name's Robert Kaiser.
Okay, thank you, Mr. If you want to go ahead and tell us what you have to say.
I guess I'll preface with the fact that my daughter was born spina bifida and is paralyzed from the waist down and uses a wheelchair. So I'm very well aware of people with disabilities and their needs, since that was mentioned in the sales brochure. I'll start with, I have several questions. On page 3 of the PDS analysis, under petition review, item 1D, it states that the plan shows that the home could be constructed completely within the setback requirement while avoiding the sanitary sewer easement. It appears that this is represented in plot plan with the magenta outlines on the Crumpleman plot plan. My question is, what does the entry 13.14 feet near the front of the house on lot 2 mean? Could someone explain that to me? I think I know what it means. I think it's addressed on the other plat map. I think that's the side setback on side adjacent to lot 3. I believe that's what it is, but I just want to make sure that I'm speaking correctly. Perhaps the PDS could answer that question.
Patrick.
Sorry, I'm flipping back and forth between screens to take a look here. What was the figure that you gave?
On the map with the magenta forward of lot 2, there's a 13.14 feet in front of the garage.
Yes.
Does that mean it's 13.1 feet from the lot, the other lot?
Yes, from lot 3.
So the statement, and looking at the Crumpleman plan in green, and it's also mentioned in your petition review under 1AI, it's 12.43 feet side setback adjacent to lot 3.
Yes.
So in reality, the one with the waiver is going to be closer to the house than farther away from the house?
Yes,
At that point? So we're not moving it away from lot 3 house, we're moving it closer to lot 3 house.
But can I speak?
Yes, Mr. Crumpleman, if you would like to answer a question, yes, you may respond.
Yes, the front corner of that part that's closest to the flag lot driveway where it's coming in is the garage section of the house. And as you construct the house, the depth of the foundation wall on the garage is only have to be down below frost footing. So we're only going to be down 3 to 4 feet at that point versus the 20 foot or 24 foot farther back is where the house starts. So by pushing it forward, the undermining concern that I have does come into play more by pushing the house forward because we have to excavate down to the bottom of the full foundation depth at that point. Is the benefit of moving it back. The other thing that the two plot plans, the original plot plan with the magenta that you mentioned, does not show a deck. There was a, if you look at the secondary plot plan, it's showing the 12.43 distance. There's a little green box on the left side next to the sewer easement that was for a proposed walkout deck to a grilling deck. And that did not show up on the original drawing, where if that was on there, that would actually push the house closer to the property line between lots 2 and 3 also.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kaiser, do you have,
I have more.
okay, thank you.
I'm just trying to get my notes together. One of the reasons listed for the request of variance for lot 2 is under E lines 3 and 4. This house will need to be placed approximately 6 feet from the property line between the two houses. I don't think that number jives with 12.43 or 13.14.
When the initial submittal was done, we didn't have an exact measurements on the house, and the house plans have not been drawn yet. So we're still in the drawing phases. The homeowner wants to make the house a little bit larger, and the minimum setback is the 6 feet that we can hold from that property line. We would like to get it farther away is our proposal. So.
Well, in reality, you are farther away, aren't you? On either one?
We are a little bit farther away, yes.
I mean, 12 foot versus 13 feet versus 6 is significantly different. Wasn't the sanitary easement in place before the property was purchased?
I would assume I have no knowledge of the property before I got involved with the project, which was after the property was purchased.
Yeah, I have the initial.
Mr. Kaiser, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We're focusing really on this rear yard setback. That's what we're here for, is the rear yard setback, not the side yard.
And the reasons, when you read this information and hear the comments, the reason is for aesthetics, for the view of the building on lot 3.
Right.
Is really what it comes down to. We're using a lot of smoke and mirrors to say it's this, it's that. In reality, I think the reality is that it's about the view. On those notes, several weeks ago, Mr. Zerhusen was driving down the street and I noticed him driving slowly. So I asked if I could help him. And he said he had purchased the property, and he said he was concerned about light coming from the apartment buildings. And he asked if he could walk. I've lost contact with you. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I don't need to see, that's fine. He asked if he could walk back, so I walked back with him and showed him the property from my vantage point. And I told him at that point in time that we have serious issues with light from the apartment buildings, especially vehicles. When that was done, when these were listed, Mr. Wilmick said several years ago he was going to landscape the apartment property to improve the aesthetics and to eliminate the light issue. And none of that's been done to this date. Um, The original plot, crumpled and plot plan for lot 2, since the house will be 20 feet further toward Reckworth, that would shield my home from the headlights to a degree on the apron, the parking apron that's going to be built on the house, which shows, it doesn't show in the original plan, but the parking lot apron shows on the modification waiver paperwork, if you see that. By them moving it back, more of that apron's going to be visible, so I'm going to get more headlights. I'd rather have the 20 feet shielding my house from more headlights coming from that parking apron. As far as the approvals, Mr. Wilmick sold the property to Mr. Zarahusen, so he naturally would be go along with that. Based on that, I respectfully request this waiver be denied. It's going to cause my family some problems. It indeed negatively affects our property at 35 Virginia Avenue. I would respectfully request that this waiver be denied, as the home can still be constructed where it exists without the waiver. And this is based on the PDS review. This would minimize the impact on my property. I would mention that when the property was listed, that the property at 38 was also listed as an additional available for purchase. So if that was purchased, my issues become moot because they would own the property. But as far as a waiver, I'm not comfortable with a waiver. I would hope that from my standpoint that would be considered. That's all I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Would anybody else like to speak in opposition of the application? If so, you need to unmute your microphone and say your name. Okay, I'll take silence as a no. And at this point, we're closing the meeting for public comment. You're welcome to listen. At this point, we're having our discussion for the board members. You're welcome to listen. It's not private. We're all talking amongst ourselves. But at this point, public comment is over. And if we need to ask questions of applicants or PDS or the witnesses, we're welcome to do that also. Do our board members have any questions for Mr. Kaiser? George, we can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
That's a little better. I heard something that time.
Mrs. Myman, if we could just take a quick 2-minute break. I think Mr. Deitmering can join us via phone and just
Okay.
have video on, so that may be better audio quality.
Okay, I move that we take a 2-minute recess. Do we have ayes?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you. George, when you get us on the telephone line, please just speak up and we'll know you're back, okay?
If I can unmute this. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yay.
I'm getting feedback into the phone.
Oh, that could be.
Hear me now?
I can hear you better than before.
Okay, well, I had like everything I heard was getting shut up.
Yeah,
But you can hear me?
it's still a little choppy.
Okay,
Is there any way to fix that, Sharmali? Maybe if he mutes the audio from his computer and just uses the phone itself?
Yes, that's what I
I
had.
turned the computer.
Yeah, it's really choppy still, George. I'm sorry.
Okay,
How about if you mute your computer audio by clicking the bottom right and then try just to use the phone audio?
let's see, the bottom right. My mute's on the left over here.
Well, that mutes your microphone for you talking. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. That'll work.
You could just hear him clearly that last time.
Yeah, George, I think it's best if you just connect over the phone, because that way you'll be able to hear better and then the board will be able to hear better too.
Okay, let me see if I can. You got me?
You need to turn off your computer audio down in the bottom right hand of your screen. If you click on the thing that looks like a tiny speaker next to the clock, if you click on that, it will bring up a range for your speakers on your computer, and you can click the far left one and it will X out your audio from your computer completely so that it doesn't cause feedback into the phone. Excuse me.
Disconnect audio.
Sorry.
Okay, I disconnected my, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Much better.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call us back into session. Joe, Angela, George, if at this point we can go through and discuss your thoughts and your observations, and we can ask questions of anyone that we need to. So what are your thoughts?
Lisa, yeah, this is George. My only concern was with Mr. Kaiser when he was talking. I didn't realize till the end there that he lived on, actually on Virginia Avenue, which is up above this property,
Right.
I guess. And does his backyard come into the side yard of this property?
Yes, it would, I believe, if it borders Virginia.
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I
Yes,
just,
yeah, my backyard abuts this property.
okay. That's what I figured, yeah.
I'm gonna mute again.
Thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Joe, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Sure. I guess, first of all, I'm not a fan of flag lot. That's not why we're here. We're here for the rear yard setback. And I feel that the person that is most impacted by the rear yard setback is Mr. Nutini. I guess Mr. Zarius included a letter that that gentleman did not have an issue with the setback. So therefore, I'm in favor of granting the variance.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I feel for Mr. Kaiser, but the observation I've made from his testimony is that the view from his backyard was always horrible from the lights from the apartment. This isn't going to change that. And believe me, I live next to a school. I see lights all the time. I know how annoying it is. But the most impacted residents seem to be the ones that are, rear adjacent.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunate that they are experiencing that, but I don't think that it's upon this vote to remedy that situation.
I agree. It's an unfortunate consequence of the location, but I don't think we have any authority to fix that. George, do you have any other thoughts?
I don't have I don't have a problem, Lisa. I think, with, I understand wanting to position it back in the property, it's just, to me, it's the proper way to handle it. So I don't have a problem with that. And whether the house is up or back, it isn't going to change Mr. Kaiser's view of it, from his property. Whether it's 20 feet or 40 feet, it's still going to be there. So, I think it's, all things considered, I think we should grant the variance, but that's me.
Would someone like to, for us to open it back up and somebody is ready to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Excellent. Okay, at this point, I'd like to reopen the meeting for Joe to make a motion.
I make the motion, but that the Board of Adjustments accepts the requested rear yard setback.
Joe, can you add to that you want to accept the findings as presented by PDS?
Sure. I will accept the recommendations recommended by PDS as part of this application.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Lisa. This is George.
Okay, Casey, you ready for a vote?
Mr. Hayes,
Yes.
Ms. Myman,
Yes.
Mr. Deitmering,
Yes.
Ms. Lucarelli.
Yes,
Okay, with that, we've accepted the PDS recommendation to approve the variance for a 20-foot from rear property line setback where 40 feet is required. Best of luck to you, Mr. Zerhusen. And thank you, Mr. Kaiser, for your time and your comments. We do appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you so much. At this point, do we have any new business?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Sounds like we don't. I move that we adjourn.
Make a motion to that effect.
And
You need a second or want me to second?
anybody want to second that?
Second.
All right. Can we do a quick yay or nay? All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you so much for coming to our Board of Adjustments meeting online. That's so awesome. I'm glad we're able to help you out, Mr. Zerkhusen, and you guys have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you.